And now let's take a look at the corona hotspots in the country. They have been identified as the areas which are likely to see the highest rate of infection in the coming days. Mumbai, 191 containment areas. Reason? The highest population density in these areas. Pune, Maharashtra. A reason is 46 cases in a single day, which is why Pune has been identified as a hotspot. Dilshad Garden in Delhi. Reason? High infection rate in that particular region. In Noida and Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. In fact, exactly where we are reporting this from and broadcasting this from. Reason is high caseload in the last 14 days. Kasaragod in Kerala. Reason? 99 cases from one small district alone and 7,725 people in isolation and under observation. Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Reason? 3 out of the 6 deaths that have taken place in the state are from this area, Ahmedabad. So if you are near a hotspot, call us and we will answer your concerns, because we have a panel of doctors coming up and we are putting out those numbers at the bottom of your screen where you can pick up and call and get your advice from the doctors live on the show tonight. And joining me this evening, Dr. Arvind Lal, Chairman and Managing Director of Lal Path Labs, Dr. Ambrish Mittal, Chairman, Endocrinology and Diabetes, Max Healthcare, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, Principal and Controller, SMS Medical Hospital and attached group of hospitals, joining me live from Jaipur. I want to ask you, Dr. Ambrish Mittal. Dr. Ambrish Mittal, people living close to these hotspots, what should they be doing? What should they be concerned about, and what is it that they should be looking out for?
I think this is the classic strategy of the follow-up strategy in a lockdown, is to identify places which are really hot right now, where most of your cases are coming from. In a sense, this is the area where people within the hotspot have to be extra cautious, of course, but most importantly, they have to be tested. They have to be screened and tested very carefully. Otherwise, we lose the whole advantage of identifying these clusters or these hotspots. And I think that's really, really important. If you're living close to it, obviously you should be observing, in any case, all the precautions that have been discussed and advised. Stay inside your house. Just don't go out. That's the best you can do if you're close to a hotspot. But I really think that if one is able to identify clusters, it's actually not a bad thing, in a sense that if you can localize the disease, you can probably come down hard on that area, screen properly, take out the people who are positive, put them in hospitals, test them, whatever. But I think this is a very, very important follow-up if we want the lockdown, which is not a minor thing. It's a huge thing for a big country like India. It's an unprecedented thing. Really, we would need to follow up on these hotspots with a sense of urgency. Otherwise, we'll unnecessarily lose the battle.
Very well put. Let me also get in Dr. Sudhir Bhandari. And Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, in a government hospital like yours, I'm sure you've handled a lot of corona cases. We've seen a sudden spike. In fact, over 300 cases that have risen between yesterday and today. And many of these are because of the Tablighi Jamaat congregation in Nizamuddin and traced back to contact with these people. I want to ask you, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, how can we break the chain now? Have we entered the third phase of community spread? Dr. Arvind Lal, if you could take that question.
Yes, Madam Navika, the fact of the matter is that this social distancing is very, very important, and especially the strategy which our government took was to isolate the people, to trace the contact, etc., etc. So this, what has happened in Nizamuddin has set the clock back, quite a lot. Now, as far as the people around these places or hotspots are concerned, well, they are actually a very, very suspect kind of group. They may be carriers of virus, they may be asymptomatic, and they have to be kept under observation. and these people can easily be tested. This is one of the testing criteria, that if you've been around people who have suffered from the virus, so you can be tested. And I think we should not waste any more time. You have seen what happens if you waste time in testing, especially in America. So if it could happen to America, we should keep our fingers crossed it doesn't happen in India. So that's what I
have
like to say.
two callers who have questions to the panel of doctors. Purushottam calling in from Mumbai and Narayan from Kochi. Good evening, Purushottam. What's your question?
This is Purushottam Singhi from Worli, Mumbai. I am 67 years old, type 1 diabetic and an hypertension patient. What precautions would you recommend me? Thank you.
All right. Dr. Bhandari, hypertensive and diabetic patient,
Yes,
what
fact,
precautions should he take?
Yeah, the best advice for you should be, being a diabetic and hypertensive and you are 60 plus. So the most important thing is that isolate yourself. You are healthy, but you are very prone for any superadded secondary infection. So a strong recommendation will be that you should quarantine yourself totally. You should stay at home, not meet and mix up with everyone. And it will be nice to frequently wash your hands, take all the precautions of preventing any contact with anyone. Keep your diabetes and blood pressure well under control. This is very important for you.
Now, Mr. Narayan calling in from Kochi, what's your question?
Good evening, ma'am, and first of all, congratulations to all the doctors and the work what they're doing. And my question to the doctors is basically, I am a diabetic patient, level 2 this thing, with hypertension, and what kind of a food is normally we can go at these times, because the type of food what we take normally is different from office time, and when we are at home, we normally take a lot of food intake.
Right.
So
all right, that's a long list. Let me get another caller. Anna Durai from Pune. What's your question so that we can go together to Dr. Amrish Mittal?
Good evening. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Anna Durai.
Yeah, my question is, yes, I'm a senior citizen. My city, Pune, is now promoted to be a hotspot. Now, I'm only concerned, we are abiding by all the government instructions. We are staying in house. We are taking all precautions. But does the municipal corporation or the government, do they have any initiative in cleansing up by way of spraying of, disinfectants?
All right. Amrish Mittal, one is the hypertension question and the other is there a way to disinfect your locality if you're in a hotspot?
Well, they do these spraying things. I don't know how effective they are really directly against the virus to spray a whole locality. But yes, those things, the common sense antiseptic measures are being observed in many areas. I don't think that's critical if you ask me, really, because it's what are you going to spray and where. I think what is important is to observe social distancing and all the steps that have been outlined numerous times on various channels and various social media platforms. For your question, basically, if you're a diabetic and hypertensive, I'll carry on forward from what Dr. Bhandari was saying. It is very important to check your sugars regularly. Don't be in this sort of situation where you don't know what's happening.
All right, that's an important point. And Dr. Lal, I'm running out of time, but I want to ask you just one question, which is, are we testing enough or are we pretending to ourselves that the numbers are low?
Navika, as I said earlier, our testing strategy was completely different because we woke up in time, and this was 15 days before the emergency declared by the WHO. So we were able to trace practically each and every contact coming to India, and that was the strategy. So therefore, you did not have to test so much. But now the testing strategy has changed somewhat, and therefore you are seeing the spurt in numbers. But it is nowhere near the numbers which we are seeing from the US.
That's
the UK,
a ray of hope, nowhere near the
world.
numbers we are seeing in the European countries and the United States of America. So India's managed its strategies well. We have to take care. We have to continue to be home. We have to continue to be safe. We have to follow social distancing. We have to observe the lockdown and fingers crossed, we may be able to beat this pandemic from hitting us too hard. Thank you very much, doctors, and salute you, because this entire country appreciates the efforts that are being put out by the health workers community, and you are our Rashtra Rakshaks. Thank you for joining me on the News Hour tonight. On the other side, of course, we have Corona ko harana hai, and Smriti Irani is joining me.